So last week we started the course, and we started with the first domain, right? So the first domain was mainly about the security principles, right? The principle that we have read many times in previously, the core and basis of the cybersecurity, which is CIA, is the most important in confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Is a very important concept. The difference between the authentication and authorization, right? And understand the difference between the data privacy and data security. Data security is mainly the tools that provide the data privacy, but the concept of data privacy is very important because data privacy refers to the term that how data is collected, stored, and used, right? The important thing is that if a user data is used without user consent and an agreement, then it's not good, it's not right, right? So there are a bunch of tools, processes, and controls people enable just to make sure that data privacy is retained. And when we say data privacy, there are different types of data: health data, which is PHI; personal data, which is PII; your credit card data, which is PCI, DSS. So there are different type of data, but each data has its own significance and its own criticality, and based on that, there are certain controls enabled to protect the data, right? And when you open an account in social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, so they also ask you to provide your consent to use your information, right? This means that without your consent, they cannot do it. That comes into data privacy. So though having the base concept about the data privacy is very important because that data privacy is kind of the key, right? So data privacy is very essential term for the cybersecurity because in the end of the day, we are trying to protect someone's data, right? Whether it's a user's data or organization's data or something. So data is critical, data is important. So data privacy, understand the data privacy, what information can be shared, what information cannot be shared is important. And second thing, when we go to data security means that how we entertain the data privacy from the tools and process perspective. Non-reputation, we've studied about it's simply very in a simple term, it's just someone cannot deny if you have done something. That's what it is, right? So there are proper systems, processes, logging, and there is always a proof that if someone had done something, there's a evidence, right? So they cannot just say I haven't done it, I have not deleted this account or whatever, because there's always a trail. After that, we went through quickly the risk management. You can avoid the risk, you can accept the risk, you can mitigate the risk, you can reduce the risk. But point is that normally accepting the risk is easy, but avoiding or mitigating, reducing or stopping the risk requires sometimes budget and money, right? You have to invest to avoid the risk. You have to maybe build a new server or something like that, right? So it's not always cheap, but depending on your organization, depending on your budgets, how much your management is willing to take the risk, these strategies are adopted. So security principles, security controls could be of administrative levels, could be on physical control, could be on technical control. We'll read in today's probably more about it. But normally, in the essentially in the middle, you can see is an asset. That's all we trying to protect, right? Administrative control is the policies and procedure that we make. Logical controls are the configuration that we make on these systems, and physical controls are how to reduce access to those systems, right? Through physical boundaries, through barricades, through door locks, through badges and all that. And this is the definition. Read these definitions. There may be some questions to make sure you understand the difference between regulation, standard policies, and procedures. Most important is regulations normally comes from the government, and there are penalties if you don't follow the regulation, right? So it's kind of a law, right? But other things, standard policies, procedure are normally company specific. Companies make these standards and policies and procedure just to make sure that they function in a proper way. So there could be some penalization. Company can penalize you, can give you some punishment or something like that if you don't follow that. But that's a specific to company. It's not a government law, right? So it's always good to follow the standard policies and procedures. But regulation not following can result in a severe consequences. And after that, we went through ISC Code of Ethics. It's important to read and understand this. Important thing is that as a cybersecurity professional, we all work with the common good of the society. This is very important. We all work towards the common good of the society. We don't want anyone's data to be stolen. We don't want anyone's data or account to be hacked and misused and all that. So we all, end of the day, whether we are working in an organization or we are on a personal level, we all follow the ethical rules and we all follow the ethics, and we all try to do our best part to make sure that we work towards a society which is prospering and which is not having any bad things. So this is the aim, this is the goal. um, Definitely when we all work, we have seen the opportunities and chances where we can do the things one way or another. That's where this code of ethics actually help us and guide us that what should we do if we stuck in a situation, right? So we have to make sure that we always try to protect the society and common good. We are providing the common good of the public services to the society. So that was all in the part domain one. Now we are gonna go to domain two today, right? So domain two is mainly business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response. These are the three main components, and they are, to tell you the truth, they are not just related to the cyber security. They are kind of generally people who are even non-cyber security companies. They run these programs. They have this business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response sort of thing. But depending on the business nature, but in cybersecurity is more critical, right? Because if a breach happened, then how you gonna do? What you gonna do? How you gonna fix the problem? Make sure that things are okay, right? So important thing, you always have to keep in mind that end of the day when we are working for an organization, we always have to make sure, like no matter which role we are working on, right? So important thing is that business must continue, right? There should not be any disruption to the business, or there should be minimum disruption to the business. So business, okay, must go on, right? So these all DR, BC, IR, it's all about making sure that business operations can continue when a bad thing happens, when an incident happens, when an event happens, when something goes wrong, right? So, so, so these are the guidelines and the rules the company normally adopt to make sure that how they can continue their business when something bad happened, right? So this is the main essence of this DRBC and IR, to make sure that we can continue our business, because at the end of the day, when a business is disrupted, it's sometimes it's just a financial loss, right? You're losing the business that time. Sometimes it's the reputation, right? Your reputation is damaged, something bad happened, your company name is gone bad, customer stop coming to you, so you may end up, losing entire business. You may end up closing down your company, right? So important thing is to make sure that uh, business must go on, right? So in this chapter, in this domain, we're gonna focus three components, as I said: business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response. So first thing is the incident response. So incident response, you can imagine, right? From a cybersecurity perspective, incident response means that when an incident happens, when something unusual, abnormal, something don't normally expect to happen, it happened, right? So point is that what we do, right? So what would be our response? So normally that's the reason it's called IR, incident response. When an incident happen, uh, so what is our response? And from cybersecurity perspective, the incident could be happen, someone trying to attack our system, someone trying to steal our data, something bad, some event happen, some exploit happen, some intrusion means that someone trying to access our critical systems, and some threat is trying to take over our system, right? So this all comes into the incident, and there are tools available to monitor and all that. But important thing is that one of these things happen, then we trigger the incident response process. So normally what happened that I think I should update it. IR planning we do, that means that if something bad happened, because we know that, right? It's the life is no matter how much here we do, end of the day, no one is perfect and the world is not perfect. So there will be a time when incident will happen, bad things will happen, right? So we should do incident response planning, means that we should be ready for that. If it happened, then what is it that I'm going to do, right? Although we'll make sure that our systems are updated and all that, and we try that incident don't happen, but they will happen. Everyone knows that there's no way you can say that bad things will not happen, right? So bad thing will happen, and that's what the role of a cybersecurity respondent and analyst job comes in the picture. That these are the one individuals who have their job just to monitor for these incidents, and based on the incident criticality, trigger the incident response plan and try to see how to handle that level of situation, right? So when something happens, the incident response planning help us to respond to the abnormal condition that happen, right? So important thing is that business must go on. So if this an abnormal condition happen that can disrupt the business, not necessarily that every condition will disrupt the business right away, right? So sometimes it happened that something happened, we see that okay, this happened, this should not happen, but right now business is going okay, right? Maybe we see that someone is trying to hack into our systems, right? So we see that although he have not done anything wrong yet because we have certain controls and measures, but point is that we immediately proactively take actions, right? So we have clarity in our mind that if something bad happens, then what is it I'm gonna do, what is my planning for that, right? So if you look at this diagram, right, so this is what we do. So normally when incident response planning happening, we make sure that we understand that incident could happen, right? We prepare for that, right? We make sure that we are ready for that. We know that there is no way in the world anyone can say that they are 100% secure and they can never be attacked. No one can say that. Even the most largest and expensive organization, we have those who have deployed most state of the art tools and the things, and they know that there's no way you can say that you are always protected because things are evolving. Even the threats are evolving, even the hackers are coming with new techniques. So there is no way to give a guarantee that it will never happen. For that reason, since we cannot guarantee that attack will not happen, we know that attack will happen. So but we have to be ready for that. This IR planning is all about getting ready. Make sure that when it happens, you know what to do, right? So we prepare ourselves, means that we make ourselves ready. We prepare from all perspective. We prepare from the documentation, process, procedure, policies, that if it happen, what we're gonna do. Second thing is that detection analysis. We deploy certain tools, means that there are a bunch of tools available in the industry and market. You can deploy, they will monitor your systems and they will tell you that if something went bad and something is trying to do something wrong. So we do the preparation, then we deploy the tools and the things, and we start doing the monitoring, right? Detection and analysis mean that we get ourselves ready and then we start monitoring, and during the monitoring we see that something bad happened, then we will contain it, means that this is our response, that how we gonna do it, we gonna contain it, we eradicate it, or recovery, means that we'll try to minimize the impact, right? We will try to remove that. Let's say if someone created an virus and attacked our systems to do something bad, we'll try to contain the virus, we try to contain the impact, right? Let's say if we immediately detect it, so we immediately see that okay, it's happening on that particular machine, so let's isolate that machine. Is because if we don't contain it, maybe it will spread over all of my office computers and all that, right? So means containment, if we can minimize the impact and just reduce it to the level. Eradicate, we completely remove it, and then we recover. If there is a damage to the business, we recover to that, right? And last but not the least is the post-incident activity. This is important to do the post-incident analysis to understand if something went wrong, or the plan didn't work, or something we missed in the plan, what happened, what can we do better next time, right? So post incident analysis normally is important to make sure that we are constantly evaluating and reviewing our processes and procedures and technologies and make sure that things are working fine. So because things happen, not everything every time works perfectly, right? So mistakes happen. People are the people, and they miss the processes. Sometimes people miss the technologies. People don't know what to do when something happened. Although you have everything documented, but it happens. So post-incident analysis help us to make sure that next time we don't repeat the same mistake. Means that we always improvise, right? So this is very important. And so incident will happen. This is what we learned. We have to be ready for incident. We have to make sure that we prepare, we deploy system, we make process procedures, and we start doing the detection analysis. That's where the most of the jobs happen on cybersecurity. They are cybersecurity analysts, which are sitting and monitoring what happening on the network, and if something happen, that's where they contain and they remove the virus and so on, whatever happening, right? And this is what you see in most of the movies and all that. That's where you see nice, fancy, big screen people sitting. That's the cybersecurity SOC analyst sitting and monitoring and trying to detect if something going wrong or bad in their systems, right? So this is about the cybersecurity incident response. But normally, one more thing is that incident response normally are the people who are doing the incident response, right? It's a team who's doing it. So there could be different levels. I mean, there could be a dedicated team. In big companies, in big large organizations, they have a full-fledged team who's dedicated to the incident response. Means something wrong happened, these teams jump into that. And it could be a expert of technology expert, it could be the business expert, it could be the lawyers and all that. It could depends. But normally, so in large organization, IR teams are dedicated IR teams. But in some smaller or mid-sized organization, they could be uh, means that they are not dedicated teams, means that they are not always sitting and waiting for incident to happen, because in large organization there's always something happening. That's the reason this IR team is always busy, because you have large amount of data you are trying to protect, and someone is trying to cover do something wrong, so you always have a dedicated team busy. In a smaller or medium sized setup, things are not always bad things are happening, right? It happen at times, but it's not always happening. So that's the reason they have this leverage. Means that when the incident happen, they will just pull the teams that okay, for this time you are dedicated to work with us, right? And there are times when you have hybrid setup, right? Mix of dedicated and leverage, right? So it depends on the organizations. Normally, now there are separate companies, let's say, who are providing only cybersecurity services, right? So these teams normally, because their core business is to provide cybersecurity services, they are the one who's doing the SOC monitoring for you, who are the one who have SOC analyst sitting. So they normally, the cybersecurity companies have dedicated SOC teams, right? I mean that IR teams sitting and working, because let's say in one time this company is providing service to 20, 20, 30, 40 customers, right? And 30, 40 customers, they always have something happening, right, on their side. So normally dedicated cybersecurity companies whose business is only to have the cybersecurity, they always have IR team. So this was about IR, right? Incident response. Any question? Now, second is the business continuity planning, BCP, right? And this is again a very common term, and it's used definitely and extensively in cybersecurity, but at the same time, it also used in some journal business also, right? Business continuity is a journal term. You can say that any company who want to make sure that their business continues when the things bad things happen. So this is mainly a crisis management, right? And I think a lot of students out of you guys have are business student, right? So in business, you definitely read about the crisis management, business continuity planning, and all that. This is very important. So this is generally the business continuity planning is again relate to the fact that we have to make sure that business continues, right? Business operations keep going on when a crisis happened, right? And the main component about the BCP planning is make sure that we document everything, make sure that we understand that what are the critical components of our business, and if something goes wrong, how we'll notify to the stakeholders, and we have an alerting process internally to engage the teams and make sure that our organization, our stakeholders, our management, our executive committee, they all are aware that something bad happened. Now we're going to trigger the business continuity plan, right? So normally This is what it is. It's kind of, there's a reason this IR and IR relates to a certain incidents, but the business continuity is kind of a bigger umbrella, right? Yeah. And this is IR, a business continuity planning again is the plan that we document, because again we know that things will not be perfect always, right? So things are good now, but what if a flood comes, right? What will do, right? So it's not about the cybersecurity, as I said. Business continuity planning is a general term, and what will do, right? If something bad happened, what if entire city went down, right? What if the power shutdown happened in the entire city, and how will run the business in that case? So these kind of things, right? So it's easy to say that okay, when city power goes down, I will operate, I will have my servers and services running from another city. But how you'll do that, right? You have to make sure you plan it well. You have to make sure you have a process, right? We have a people who supporting in other city, and you have the documented process that who should be called and whom should be called and what procedure should be. Means that it should not be a random approach. It should not be a very abrupt drastic approach at that time. We are thinking, we know all the thinking have done in advance, right? That's the whole purpose of the business BCP, that we do all the thinking, all the planning in advance, that when things go wrong, we all know we don't have to panic. When things go wrong, something very bad happening, the entire, let's earthquake came in a city, or flood came in a city, or some major power outage happened in the entire region, or the city, or whatever, then we know there is a plan. We just activate the plan, we just execute the plan, right? So it's not that we start thinking that time that, oh, I have to do this and that and this and that, right? So means that if you start thinking that time, then we'll not be able to quickly recover, right? Important thing is to recover the business, and business recovery happens smoothly when we have everything planned, documented, and we just execute the plan. So normal, you can see in this diagram that uh, normally BCP is planning, business continuity planning. You identify your risk, you analyze the risk, right? And after analysis, what you do, you create a strategy and plan, right? If this risk happened, let's say this power outage happened, this flood happened, maybe I have a major problem, my server is going down, then what I will do, I will deploy another server, I will do this thing, I will do this thing, I will maybe, for I need someone to go on site, maybe I'll contract a third party vendor or contractor to go. So I mean, you identify, you understand what exactly are the risks for your organization, then you analyze, right, which risks I have to do, how do I handle it, you strategize it, and you measure it. Means that you plan it, you train it, you maintain it, you make sure your teams are ready, you test it, and make sure it's communicated to the right teams. Means the planning or all the things that we want to achieve during this business continuity, teams who are handling it, they know it exactly what to do, right? So, and we measure it. Let's say incident happened, few things worked, few things didn't work, then we'll again go back and do the post incident analysis and see why things didn't work. So we have to maybe update our processes, we have to train our staff. Maybe process was well documented, but the staff was not trained. The guy who was doing it, he lost it, he forget it, he didn't do it right, right? So maybe it's the training. So constantly we have to improvise through the analysis and make sure we measure it constantly. So IR, BC, they are kind of the all terms are interlinked, means they are related to the business continuity, means that we have to make sure business and life goes on. You see that some of the component of the business continuity plan is that you have to make sure you list down the team members, right? Maybe are different sections, different department, maybe in some cases your contractors and your suppliers, and make sure that you know that which team member will be required when you will be activating the business continuity plan, right? We have to document the procedures, right, and checklist that we have done this. Maybe few the guy who was doing it, he missed few steps, so we make sure we have a checklist, right? You have done all of that. And we have a notification process, means that we are notifying people who are stakeholder that okay, this is what is happening, make sure they are getting updated that this is what is happening. And there's a procedure for that. Maybe you will send an email after every, normally in the, I have seen in my experience is that sending email every 2 hour or 1 hour or 10 minutes depending on the criticality, right? This is very common. People do have SMS system notification now, right? In some cases you will send the SMS notification, and sometimes you need the guidance from the management. And so important thing is that you have to make sure that you document it well. Every person who's involved is in the list. his contact numbers, his phone numbers, how you will activate the plan, at what situation you will activate the plan. So this is all part of the BCP. Means that when things went wrong, you are not in panic mode. You just know exactly this is the checklist I have to follow. This is exactly what I have to do. This is all well planned activities. So it means that we are getting ourselves ready for a disaster or the some interruption in the business, and we know how to recover. So after the IR and BCP, the third thing is the DR, disaster recovery. Disaster recovery, you can imagine that something. So this is kind of a last resort, you can say, right? DR, when we say DR, is kind of a last resort. So we do IR. IR could happen any day. I don't have to panic much. I mean, I have a team who's responding to, let's say, cyber attack, some virus came, some threat came, someone trying to breach my system. I activated my IR process, instant response. But something bigger happened, then I will do make sure that business continuity happen. But in some cases, something very bad could happen. As I said, like it could be a flood that killed the entire city or something like something severely, very severe happened, right? Normally, typically, by the definition of this ISC2 documentation, when the both IR and BC fails, people trigger the disaster recovery plan. So disaster recovery again is related to the same fact that when the disaster happened, how will recover, right? It's kind of DR and BC are kind of related in a sense that you can think of that as computer systems. You are making a backup in another city or another country. In some cases, make sure that your server is hosted. Let's say if you have a service running in North America or Canada, maybe you would put a backup service in Europe somewhere, right? Just to make sure that if something extremely bad happened, that that's how I'm gonna recover. It's all about recovery and business continuity, right? End of the day, as I said, what matter most is to make sure that business goes on and there's a less interruption to the business. It's not that only that business transactions are stopping. Sometimes is your brand name, right? The name of your organization or company. If it is get damaged, it's very bad impression, right? You may lose the company. You will end up, closing your company down, right? Again, disaster recovery planning or DR planning. Again, we have a high level plan. We plan tell the management that if extremely bad and worse situation happen, that what we will do. In some cases, let's say your company operates from one city, you can say that, okay, we don't have a staff in city number two, that's where we want to operate in disaster situation, but let's say we'll hire a contractor, right? Let's say we'll hire a contractor, okay, for next week you do the job for us, right? So it's kind of could be a part of your disaster recovery plan. Although our company is not present in that city, but disaster happened, so we have to operate from there, and it will take some time, maybe for some people to fly over in that city and start working from there and so on. Because depending on the business nature, not all the business are online. Some businesses require some persons to be on site. Let's say you are having a supply chain thing, you have to deliver some item to someone, then someone has to be there to do this deliveries and all that, right? So means depending on the business nature and all that. So every business has a different nature. Sometimes it's just online, so it's less of a worry, but sometimes it's physical presence are required and all that. So disaster recovery again is the last resort, and that's where you kick in. But important thing again for the disaster recovery plan, like for any other plan, that we have to identify what are the potential disasters, as I said, like earthquake came, flood came, whatever, right? And we deploy our objective, recovery time objective, right? RTO they call it. This is a industry term called RTO. Recovery time objective means that how much time will take to recover the essential business or critical businesses, right? Let's say your server, one of the, you have 100 servers running. Out of 100, fives are extremely critical, right? Without that, your transaction stops and everything stops. So you'll mention that, identify the most critical servers. You tell them, okay, for these servers I need to recover within 1 hour, and then you do the deployment strategies. Means that when you say, let's say you say, I'll take 5 hours to recover, it's fine. But if you say that no, I have to recover within half an hour or 1 hour, then maybe you have to deploy some advanced systems, you have to deploy some advanced tool, and those tools will be expensive, right? So means that DR planning or incident response planning, they all come with the costing, right? Mean that how much the RTO, recovery time, you said yourself, your organization said, Then based on that, you deploy those technologies, how expensive they could be. But depending, this is because this is normally your management decide, right? Your executives, CXOs and CEOs and VPs and directors. This is goes to their level. Your role maybe as a cybersecurity analyst or maybe risk analyst, you have to analyze the risk. You have to tell them that this is the risk. If you want me to recover as a technology recovery, you want to do it in 1 hour, it will take, let's say, $1 million. You want to do it in half an hour, you're going to take $100 million, something like that. So normally what happens that we have all these processes and then we constantly test them, right? The point is that maybe disaster will never happen, right? But depending on the nature of the business, maybe you'll invest $10 million and a disaster never happen. But point is that the when it will happen, right? That's where it's saving your business brand and business values and all that. And making all the plan is good, but important thing is to make sure that we regularly test and update the plans, right? Same like previously, make sure that whatever the planning we have, we constantly test it, right? In the organization, normally they run this DR and BC plans every 6 months to a year. Sometimes they have 6 months, sometimes they have 1 year, and they run this test plan. Means they execute, they simulate a problem that okay, some disaster happened. Now we have to test entire process that we have documented. So this testing is important to make sure that people are aware, people are ready when things go wrong, they are able to recover from this disaster, right? So IR, BC, DR, they all are important. They all main intent is to continue the business when things are not working in a very ideal fashion, right? There's something disrupted, and we want to make sure business is not disrupted, right? So this diagram, I just took it from the Google, and it just shows you the idea that DR and BC, right? This is all, it's like a pyramid kind of picture where you start with the BCP planning, you strategize it, you do the risk analysis, the same thing that we have discussed, risk and the probability of happening and all that. And then you make your BCP plans, and then you do the validation and testing and so on. So DRBC, they all kind of interlinked terminologies, but end of the day, essential thing is that it's all related to the business that we want to make sure that whatever organization I'm working for a technology organization, I'm working for a cybersecurity company, or maybe I'm working for a supply chain company. I have to make sure business goes on. And from the you guys have to make sure that all of you have to make sure that you all go through the study material, ISC2 study material, which is very essential, right? So all of you make sure that whatever I'm teaching or telling you, it's just a summary of the material which ISC2 has given. So you have to make sure that you go through each and every chapter of this, right? And you have to read line by line. Something is not clear, read it again, read it twice. Make sure you understand from the YouTube or Google or something. Concepts are high level, I think, should be able to comprehend. It should not be very difficult. So everything you have to read, right? Don't just rely on my deck. I'm just summarizing the thing. I'm not going sometimes into heavy details, right? So you will find some more examples, more details in real world and all that. So you have to go through this study material. This is extremely essential. On top of that, once you are done reading that, you can revise it, right? I have posted in our Google Drive these chapters PDF. I think they are available from ISC2 site. These are the same ISC2 material. You can download them. So I've downloaded and put on R folder. Same thing, whatever we have studied, you have to make sure that you understand what are the terminologies for the IR, what are the components, what are the teams, how the teams could be formed. They could be dedicated, leverage, and hybrid. Same goes to business continuity, how you plan for business continuity, how you plan for the disaster recovery. So again, we prepare ourselves, we document the process, tools, and everything. We start doing the monitoring. Then something bad happen, we contain it, and then post incident we do the analysis. And after that, all these terms, to tell the truth, ISA2 have done a very good job in end of the each chapter or each domain. They have given this summary of the terminologies, and they are very good actually. If you read them, you understand them, they will help you a lifetime, to tell the truth. They are very good terminologies. The way they have defined it is good, and sometimes they have referred to the which source they have taken. This, as I said, is one of the very important compliance standard. Is North American standard, what is widely used across the world, and this is a very good. document this has so many standards, so they have taken it from standard SP 800. So important thing is that you have to read this definition. Make sure at least on high level concept wise you understand that, right? You see this one they have taken IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force documentation. So these terminologies, make sure that you read the entire chapter, you understand the core concepts, you understand the core elements, and end of the day, the definition they are giving end of the chapter is also important. And do it for each and every chapter, right? So I think we have finished the security principles domain one. Same thing, you have to go through all of that, and after that, you see this they are giving a large list of the definitions. If you understand these definitions, I think having the concept about this definition, it will help you big time. Not only this course, in general, this is overall help you with the building your cybersecurity base knowledge, right? Because these are the concepts: governance, data integrity, encryption, confidentiality. These are the terms which you will repeatedly hear here and there, right? Whenever you go to industry, non-repetition, we studied probability of happening a incident or a risk or whatever. So this is all from the domain 2 perspective. If any questions, please let me know right now.